The fantasy playoffs are so close, you can almost taste it. So of course it's time for some Dynasty buys and sells to get you in the right position, whether you're a contender or you're already looking ahead to 2026. The first transaction is to buy Devonta Smith. Look, let's keep this simple. Devonta Smith is the wide receiver 1 in Philadelphia. Yes, I know this last week he had a bad week, but he is a better receiver. He fits better with Jalen Hurts, who is allergic to throwing over the middle. And there is clearly something going wrong with A.J. Brown. I wouldn't be shocked if the Eagles moved on from A.J. Brown in a trade in the offseason and Devonta Smith could ascend even further. I would pay happily a mid-2026 first-round pick. I'd probably even pay an early first-round pick. I may even throw a second rounder on top of that mid-first round pick. That is how confident I am on Devonta Smith. This is a pick that I think can help you right now in 2025, but of course can help you in 2026 and beyond as well. The next player I'm looking to buy is Chimere Dike. Now, Calvin Ridley is done for the year. I think the Titans potentially move on from him at the end of this season. And I'll be honest, I've been really impressed with Dike. He looks like an NFL wide receiver. His separation is impressive. His ability after the catch is phenomenal. And somebody has got to catch passes in Tennessee. This last week, he got banged up as well. So you can even get an injury discount on him right now. Current price of a 2026 early third round pick, that feels like an absolute bargain price to go and get him. If you are finding this for the first time, hit the subscribe button and stick around because I've got an absolute banger of a sell that I think may upset a few people right at the end of the show. The next transaction up is to sell George Kittle. Look, this is probably the last time you're going to be able to get peak value for George Kittle. He is a 32-year-old tight end, and he's not of the Travis Kelce mold. He is physical, he's willing to get down and dirty, and that is going to age him significantly more than a player like Travis Kelce. Let's also not forget, Ricky Pearsall's back this week. He's going to start earning some more target share. Brandon Ayuk is on the horizon. Christian McCaffrey's not going anywhere. And Juwan Jennings is still going to command a decent target share. George Kittle's shown when everybody's healthy, when everyone's on the field, he's one of the players that sees a drop in target share. And I wouldn't be shocked if that happens down the stretch. So I don't think he's going to be a top 4, top 5 dynasty tight end in the playoffs. And certainly as soon as we hit the offseason, people are going to get ageist. People are going to start getting turned off by that side of things. So look to move on from him now if you can. Can you pivot to a potentially younger tight end, or can you move him for a late 2026 first? My favorite move is to pivot from George Kittle to the next player I'm going to talk about, who is Tucker Kraft. Look, Tucker Kraft ascended. We can talk about small sample sizes. We can talk about him potentially not being that established alpha tight end. I don't buy any of it. I think he is the number 1 receiver in the Packers offense. And I think that next year he is going to ascend into that Brock Bowers and Trey McBride tier. And he's currently being valued as a tight end 5. This is a guy that averaged 14.7 points per game whilst healthy this year. And I think that Tucker Kraft is a fantastic buy because you can go and get that injury discount. Everyone always says it, as soon as a player gets injured, go out and buy, get the injury dip. It takes a couple of weeks. People don't want to react. But if Tucker Kraft was on a contender, they're now feeling the pain. They're feeling the pain of not having that elite tight end, and they're feeling the pain of having Tucker Kraft sat in their IR slot, not scoring points. So now is the time you pounce. Go and buy Tucker Kraft. Yes, you're probably going to have to pivot off a veteran, someone who is scoring points if they're on a contending team. If he's on a rebuilder, you're probably not going to be able to prize Tucker Kraft away. But go and ask the question, as I said, can you pivot from George Kittle to Tucker Kraft? It'll hurt you now, but if you're already looking towards 2026, it's going to put you in an even better position in the short term, and you'll have an even better tight end in 2026 and beyond. My final buy, Malik Nabers. Just like Tucker Kraft, it's the injury discount. I don't believe you get an injury discount immediately. People need to feel that pain. If Malik Nabers was on a contender, they're looking around at their roster, they're looking at their draft picks, they're looking at their assets saying, what can I move to help push me over the top and become a contender? And Malik Nabers sat in their R spot is scoring no points. So yeah, the price is 2 future firsts. I don't think you're going to be able to do that, because if someone's interested in those first round picks, they're rebuilding, they're happy to stick with Nabers. But can you pivot from Malik, a Drake London, although he's potentially not so good with the injury situation? Can you pivot from somebody like a Zay Flowers, a Roma Dunze, T Higgins, maybe add a second round pick to one of those guys to go and get Malik Nabers, and allow you a player that is going to score points for the contender now, but you get the better player who fits the timeline in a nicer window. Less time to get negative though. Derrick Henry. Every single year we get this. Derrick Henry's yards per attempt improves as the months go on. This is what he averages in November. This is what he averages in December. It's that time of year. People are excited about Derrick Henry as soon as the weather turns cold. And Derrick Henry has a phenomenal run of matchups in the fantasy playoffs this year. Every single analyst out there is telling you in redraft to go and buy Derrick Henry. That is exactly why you should be selling. Derrick Henry is aging. He's at the end of his production cycle. Yes, you may get some production next year, but you're getting nothing beyond that. This is your last chance. He is already aged out. And as soon as we hit the off season, people become ageist and his value is going to plummet. So if you can get a late first, I would happily take an early second, which is, I think, what the best you can hope for. But if you can get a late first, maybe a contender's second and third, something like that, this is the last chance you're going to have to pivot off of Derrick Henry and grab a serious piece that can help you move forward into 2026. Now the last one. I promised you a banger, and I am not going to disappoint. It is time to sell Puka Nacua. Now this is a little bit narrow-minded, a little bit short-sighted, but the Los Angeles Rams offense has completely changed. Puka Nacua started the season on a 5-game stretch where he averaged over 80% of offensive snaps. During that time, he was averaging 26.8 points per game. That was breaking fantasy football. He was phenomenal. He then got injured in week 6. He missed a couple of weeks, and the Rams offense pivoted. It unlocked this 3 tight end juggernaut that it has become. The Rams are dictating the defensive personnel matchups because of someone who is super athletic like Terrence Ferguson. They're getting more linebackers on the field, and it's allowing them to feast. And Matthew Stafford is absolutely balling right now. The Rams offense is one of the best in the league, and it's just amazing to watch, and it's great for the Rams to continue to tick up wins. The one person it's bad for is Puka Nacua, because he comes off the field in those 3 tight end sets. The Rams tend to lean with Devonta Adams to those situations because he's a better pure man coverage beater than Puka Nacua. So what has happened since then? Well, Puka Nacua has played 56% of offensive snaps since he came back from injury. During that time, he has averaged 18.2 points per game. That's still great, but that's not the 26.8 points he was producing. Also, in the last 3 weeks, he scored 2 touchdowns. That was the same amount of touchdowns as he scored in those first 5 weeks. So that 18.2 points per game is slightly buoyed by those touchdowns. Do I think Puka Nacua is still a wide receiver 1 in fantasy football? Absolutely. Do I think Puka Nacua is still a cornerstone piece that you want to build around? Absolutely. But I don't think he's a top 2 wide receiver. Keep Trade Cutting have got him as wide receiver 3 overall. In the latest DLF ADP, he was wide receiver 2. If you can get top 3 Dynasty wide receiver prices for Puka Nacua, I think now is a good time to be selling, because on top of all of this, I'm talking about snap shares and route participation. I'm concerned about the injuries as well. He's constantly banged up. He has a very physical style of play, and I just think that he's a player that I'm nervous. So for me, I would happily pivot from Puka Nacua straight up for Rashee Rice, Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Justin Jefferson, or Jamar Chase. I have all of those guys ranked ahead of Puka Nacua. But I think you may be even able to pivot from Puka Nacua to Justin Jefferson and get an asset thrown in on top. I think you can do the same for CeeDee Lamb. I think you can definitely do the same for Rashee Rice. So yes, it's painful. Yes, it sounds sacrilegious, but I am happy to sell Puka Nacua right now because I think it's a good time to pivot, and he's not helping you right now be that true fantasy game breaker that he was to start the season. Do you disagree with my Puka Nacua take? Do you disagree with any of the others? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you've got any trades you're pondering, you want to know my thoughts, get them in the comments below. I'll give you my thoughts, my answers. And of course, make sure you're hitting that subscribe on the way out.